Thank you all very much for coming. It's great to see you all. Yes, this is today about the empowerment of women and how the East and West see that subject. I can see there's quite a few men in the audience as well, so that's great that you've shown your support for that. I'll first of all introduce the panel. We have on our far right, we have Rabia Bhatti, and she's the youngest elected councillor in the country, which is fantastic. I daren't ask you how old you are. You look about 12, but very well done. And next to her we have Fawzia Kasuri, and she is the advisor, the senior advisor to Imran Khan. Is that correct? Yes. Which, of course, we all know is the Movement for Justice politician and very big in Pakistan. Welcome to you. And the Lady Mayor, which we've already been introduced to, but I'll introduce to her again, that's Frances Stainton. Thank you very much for letting us be here today. And of course, Sahel Chugtai, who is the TVapex organizer and director, and he's sitting here on my right. Thank you very much for organizing, Sahel. Now, as a female myself, you've probably noticed, I'm obviously very interested in this subject, as I'm sure we all are. I would say that it's all about balance in life, which I think is something that Frances Stainton was talking to me earlier on about, in that we are 50% of the population and we should be represented that way. I just have a few figures here that I drew off the internet, that I'd like to quickly share with you, about the proportions of seats held by women in national parliaments around the world. Obviously, these are just a cross-section. But it's interesting to me to see that the UK, it was only 23%, and in Pakistan also 23%. These are figures taken from 2012, but that's only last year. Nicaragua was 40%. Which was quite amazing, and Rwanda, even more amazing, 56%. So they're doing something right out there. Sweden and Denmark, as we probably know, it's about 40%. Russia, 14%, and Papua New Guinea, 3%. So we're not quite up there yet, but we're not quite there on the bottom. So I would like to first of all start off with Frances. Would you like to give your thoughts on this subject? I would like to first of all start off with Sahel, who will introduce this subject a little bit more, and then Frances, will go to you. Thank you.
I think this term is not new, but I must thank for your patience first. You've been very, very patient today, and I welcome Rabia Bhatti, who is the youngest councillor, Mrs. Fawzia Kasuri, thank you very much, and Mayor Councillor Frances Stainton. This term, women empowerment, is not new. I don't think I need to really go into details of that. But there is the whole history of West and East is glorified with examples of strong ruling women. I mean, British history, you can look at the Queen Victoria, French history, Queen Mary, and then Muslim history. Razia Sultana, some 700 years ago, was a great empress. And Prophet Muhammad's wife, Aisha, she led the army fighting the battle. So Muslim and Asian, East and West have great history of Muslim empowerment, women empowerment. But there are dark patches as well. There are moments when we should put our head down. For example, until 1857, women in West did not have the right to take divorce. They could not ask for it. It was only applicable after 1857. And this is history. So there have been dark patches, and in spite of this right being imparted to Asian or Muslim women, they could not exercise it because of economic instability of themselves. They had no stance, a financial stance, to go for a divorce. So there have been dark patches, there have been glorified history. The history of women empowerment is evolving. And the direction and the pace of that is governed by few variables like culture, religion. I think we should also include the socio-economic setup and the literacy of the people, because the men have to understand how important women empowerment is. So the literacy of the society is also important. When all these four variables are there, and I think then two definitions of one term can be right. East and West may have their own definitions of women empowerment, and they can be equally right. You can't judge a woman, an Asian woman, let's say a Pakistani or Indian or Bangladeshi woman, not fully empowered by West standards. And that is the debate today. That we have to accommodate what the Eastern woman is going through while she's being empowered. And I think, I really hope that towards the end of the speeches, there would be very sparking questions from the audience, very learned audience, and we all like to take home more information and be more educated on this particular topic. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, Francis, over to you.
I think we're all rather fascinated with this topic of bringing together the East and West women, who some are in power and some are seeking power, and some have suffered from power against them. So we've got a lot to share together, and I think it's going to be a very interesting debate. I too am looking forward to the questions afterwards. And I think that it's really a variety of rather thought-provoking circumstances which we can explore together. From my own point of view, as life of a London mayor, that brings me into contact with a vast spectrum of women. And my personal feeling is that we need balance. We need men and we need women. They are absolutely essential to one another. And I think any good government, any good situation, be it in public or even in private life, we need that complementary skills of the male and the female. So I'm very much in favour of balance, and balance in fact is the secret of life if you think about it. Many, many things come about through getting that balance of opportunity, or whatever the two things are, in the right proportion so that everybody has their fair chance. And I think it's, yes, I think I end up saying balance is including both sexes is really the ideal formula. And I, of course, see it happening on a weekly basis, because I hold a ceremony called the Citizen Ceremony, when people become English citizens. And in fact, my dear friend Pauline Lyle-Smith is an Australian by birth, but after many, many years of living in London, she decided to become a citizen, and sadly I wasn't the mayor at that time. But she will know that this is a very interesting ceremony where we all get together. I would think every race in the world comes here, and it's really a pause for thought. People are prepared to risk their lives to come and live in England, illegally, anything to join our society. So those who come over and settle here and established themselves and are now, through the various hoops of becoming a British citizen, do get a lot of rights. And we also say, and responsibilities. And in our ceremony, we end up singing God Save the Queen and having made various vows, but they are basically to obey the laws of the country, but to be tolerant, and to also to contribute as well as to receive. And that, I think, is the secret of it, because England for many centuries has welcomed every race in the world. We're multicultural, multi-faith, multinational, and multi-creed, and I think that is our richness and our strength. And today, women are taking a part in England quite easily, to the point we've even had a Prime Minister. So we don't have a great deal of battle getting empowered here in England, but we're very conscious of other countries, and particularly in the East. And one that I particularly admire and am astounded by is little Malala Yousafzai. She stood up for education for children, and she paid the price, as you probably all know. She was shot, and she came here to Birmingham, and she's been healed, and she's now taking part again, very courageously, in television interviews. But she's very, very mature for 16 when you look at her, and you think this is an exceptional soul who's got something particular to contribute to this progress of women. And so we founded, some friends of mine, I founded a charity which was called World Peace and Prosperity, and we gave awards to people who distinguished themselves nationally and internationally with exceptional services to humanity. And we gave her a prize even though she was only 16. And I think that shows what, really at any age, a woman can soar up into the spheres of influence, and it just is utterly natural, and we salute it and we respond to it, and we wish them all the best and hope that there are many such people coming forward. What else was I going to talk to you about? I do think that I should say that mayors are known not to be political. In our term of office, we don't take part in any one political side, because here, when I'm chairing the meetings have the opposition and the administration, and they're probably fighting each other over something, and I have to keep them in order and make sure each gets a fair chance to put their arguments forward before we go to the vote, and then action is taken as a result. So I also look forward very much to hearing what the question and answers are, and I thank you for joining us today on this really very special occasion, which is entirely due to APEX's imaginative ideas. I've seen some of their programs, and each one I've found utterly enchanting and very informative, so I hope this one will be too. Thank you.
Praise indeed. Thank you very much for that. We're going to pass over now to Fazia Kasuri. And can I just say as well, when the speakers have had their, I think it's about 5 minutes they're speaking for each, then I'll take questions from the floor and observations and everything. So, Fazia.
Good evening, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for being here, and I'm very grateful to Dr. Chiktai and Lady Mayor and all of you for giving me the opportunity to come to this beautiful building and be part of, a subject that is spoken of everywhere in the world today. Women are an integral part of any society. And I'm happy to hear from you, Andrea, that touching on the commonalities between Britain and Pakistan, we have the same percentage of representatives in political forums and in the assemblies. And like you said, Lady Mayor, you've had a woman Prime Minister. We've had a woman Prime Minister too. So that is something good. About women empowerment. Now, the way I look at it is, I think it's all about opportunities. There is a growing discussion and debate all over the world on the importance of the role of women in all their respective countries. Now, specifically in reference to Pakistan, more than half of the population of Pakistan comprises of women. And there is not a field, to my knowledge, in Pakistan where we will not see women participation, and not just that, but women excelling in the professions that they have adopted, whether it is just grassroots community work, whether it is tending to the fields in agriculture, whether it is the teaching profession. Pakistani female students are creating world records. And incidentally, as you all may be aware, a record has just been created recently. It's by a young man, but he got 47 A's in his O-level and A-levels with the Cambridge University. So it's a world record. But I promise you that women, young girls today in the education sector are excelling boys. I mean, they're exceeding them in their performances and everything else. So the way I look at it is that women empowerment will come through equal opportunities, political participation, economic opportunities. Asian countries, and especially in reference to Pakistan, the rural women are somehow more at a disadvantage than the women in the urban areas of our country. And women in the rural areas comprise of the majority. They are the bulk of the population, the female population in our country. And I think what is very important is education, healthcare, well-being, and provision, poverty alleviation, I think, which will only come when we make economic opportunities available to women. We have to facilitate them. They need an environment which can be conducive to their growth. I always say this. I've been in the US myself. I went to school there, and I've lived there. A major portion of my adult life I've spent there. And I know that it's not that there is anything wrong with the genes of Pakistanis anywhere, but it's the environment in Pakistan that does not encourage their development and growth. We need to change that. And you can see Pakistanis, I have a lot of interaction with the overseas Pakistanis, and I'm also Imran Khan's advisor on overseas Pakistanis, and I see the talent and the passion, their hard work, and how they make a positive contribution to the countries, to the societies of which, the countries of which they're citizens. So the same thing can be achieved in Pakistan, and especially with reference to women, but they need that push. We need to make those opportunities available for them. The environment has to be right. They have to be facilitated through legislation, through implementation of those laws that are made. We have quite a few pro-women laws in Pakistan, but unfortunately, I think that the men in Pakistan need to be enlightened and educated and made aware also of the rights of women, how they need to respect and accept that. So this is very important, I think, education. Pakistan, the figures in education are not very encouraging. 46% is the literacy rate, out of which 27% are girls, women. And I think we need to pay more attention to education. We need to concentrate on that. We need to have more vocational centers. We need to advance in those fields. We need to provide women legal aid in Pakistan. It's very heartening. I was going through certain statistics on the internet as well, and I noticed that despite the number of women who are in political parties today all over the world, who are more and more actively taking part in the mainstream politics in their countries, in their respective countries, 15.6% is a very small percentage of women globally who are still in assemblies all over the world, in the Senate and the parliaments in the world. So I think this needs to be accelerated. This figure has to go up, because women certainly have a potential. They need to be part of mainstream political parties. It has to be made mandatory on the parties, especially in reference to Pakistan, to have as special measures to create those quotas, to encourage women, to wean them into the systems. Because in a country like Pakistan, women, their mobility is restricted. They are financially not capable. Their education, their discrimination when it comes to educating women. Families will pay more attention to sending their boys to school instead of the girls. So all this has to change, considering the intelligence and the potential that women have to grow in our country as well. So I think what we really need to do is we need to take this debate and have discussions. A very vigorous campaign needs to be conducted all over the world, because generally women have the same issues. I mean, even if you look at the United States today, I was reading on healthcare, and in the United States, 90% of the people who suffer from AIDS, women are the ones who are affected. They're in the larger majority. And obviously, if we look globally, in the ranking of countries, it saddens me to see that Pakistan is at number 56 when it comes to women empowerment. The Nordic countries in Europe, of course, take the lead, and Sweden is one of the best countries in the world for women, where they have actually, women have always been the marginalized gender. But this is something which is getting a lot of attention in the Western world because of proper institutions here, more education, and they realize that women can be significant role models, and they are important players in the success and the national development programs of any country. So they pay more attention to them, and whatever little role women like me are playing in Pakistan. Of course, I belong to a political party, and I belong to a party where we feel that we have provided a platform to the youth and women. And my work is not just restricted to women. When we speak of gender empowerment, we're talking about youth as well. Like the Lady Mayor said, I couldn't agree more with anyone, that empowerment should be across the board for men and women. We're not against men. We want to have a provision of equal opportunities for women as well, which has not been the case. But there is a trend a changing trend which is developing in the entire world. The United Nations is very actively working on it. We have a lot of NGOs, non-governmental organizations also that are working in Pakistan and trying to facilitate the growth of women. It has to come from economic participation, from political participation. It has to come from providing women good health care, making healthy mothers for a healthy nation, educating the women, and it's all there, and giving them a meaningful voice in their communities and in their societies so they can play a constructive role in the development of their country. And of course later on we'll take questions and answers. Right? Thank you very much.
Sorry, thank you very much. It's interesting you say about 15% of the women are, did you say across the board, worldwide, represented in parliaments? About 15%, you said.
15.6%.
Because I worked out, 15.6%, okay, I worked out that we've got about 15% representation in our cabinet at the moment of women. So we're not that progressed, I don't think, at all. I think there's something like 5 out of 31 in the cabinet. So Mr. Cameron has to get his act together on that one, I think.
3 out of 7, so that's...
3 out of 7, there you go, whee! Okay, someone who might know more about this than me is our last speaker, Rabia Bhatti.
All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for having me. And after an entirely illuminating discussion that our panel have already touched upon, I don't really know what else to say, but I shall try my best. To begin with, I would like to thank both the men and women behind this evening's wonderful debate, and of course to TVapex for hosting us. It is an absolute pleasure to be here tonight to talk and address an issue that is incredibly close to my heart, an issue that's echoed in the corridors of Whitehall, in the halls of Westminster, and indeed today in these very council chambers. When I think about Pakistan, of women, of empowerment, of progress, the concept goes hand in hand with an image of strife, tensions in global politics, challenges, inequality and injustice. And yet this image is not one that the women of Pakistan, or indeed the public of Pakistan, resonate with, and indeed rightly so. Despite being beset with a growing number of problems, issues and calamities, the nation and those that dwell within its borders are making a statement of dedication day in and day out. And this is because they understand that there can be no true understanding or trust in a country divided by walls. Not only those walls, ladies and gentlemen, built of concrete and stone, but those walls we erect in our minds. Around the globe, in villages and cities, in times of stability and crisis, women are often the ones responsible for keeping communities thriving. We are the ones who nurture the bonds of family and friendship, who care for elderly relatives, volunteer in our children's classrooms, and organize community events that serve the common good. We know from experience that sharing a neighborhood is not the same as being good neighbors. Any more than eating French fries is indeed about being French. We understand that empowering one another means actively reaching out and inviting one another into our homes to talk, but more importantly, ladies and gentlemen, to listen. And we have learned that often when we exchange the details of our lives, the superficial factors that seemingly divide us fade away. We may not look or dress the same, we may not even worship the same way. But when it comes to what makes us laugh or cry, when it comes to what we dream of for our futures, when indeed it comes to how hard we work each day, we are usually more alike than we are different. We have also learned that the more we are able to understand and appreciate someone else's perspective, the more dimension, depth and texture we ultimately add to our own. Putting ourselves in each other's shoes, and indeed our women's size 6 feet shoes, ladies, and viewing the world from her vantage point, and enhances our ability to empathize, compromise, and indeed collaborate in order to move forward. But if we women are to fortify acceptance in our societies, we must each play an active role, like thousands of individual stars that illuminate the skies. In my part of the world, I see inspiring efforts each day. I see Muslim women, British women, Pakistani women, women of different ethnicities, different cultures, different religions and different backgrounds, forging networks with female executives in other countries, sharing best practices, creating new partnerships, empowering one another to succeed. I see these women joining global efforts to lift the lives of others. And I also see a promise at the grassroots level, far removed from the headlines and the spotlights, often among women who will never have the chance to travel beyond their homeland. I see these women using their influence as mothers, teachers and role models to transmit values of tolerance, open-mindedness and respect for diversity to their children. But as Muslim women stand up and speak out about who we are, what we believe and where we are going, as we reach out, we are all visionary women from different cultures and backgrounds, but with so much to give, learn, build and uphold. For if we are to build a better world, we must start by building bridges of friendship, asking the questions and listening to the answers that underpin trust and connection. In the words of the 19th century writer George Sand, one of the boldest, bravest women of her time, no one makes a revolution by himself, and there are some revolutions which humanity accomplishes without quite knowing how, because it is everybody who takes them in hand. So let us take our destiny and the future of our nations in hand. As women from around the world, let us spark not only a revolution of acceptance and hope for generations to come, but become an example of the unity in sisterhood and a beacon of women empowerment. We women bring unique values, skills and strengths to the challenges that the global world faces today. We are communicators, we are negotiators, peace builders and priority setters, examples of which we can see from around the world, stretching from Northern Ireland to Rwanda and to Colombia. But to be successful, we have to stick together. We have to support one another, not only at home, but across the boundaries of geography, culture and race, and show by example that what humanity has in common is more powerful than anything that can divide us. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Three fascinating women here, glamorous and gorgeous and brainy. So who wants to ask the first question to whom? Okay, have the first. Shall I bring the mic over? Yes, okay. Would you like to say your name and question?
Yeah, Councillor Sitara Anjum from the neighbouring borough of Ealing. My first question is from Fawzia Kasuri. The topic which is also very close to my heart, and I'm glad that you touched upon important issues that like Pakistani women are not short of any talent or skills, but they have not been provided the environment where they can excel. And your message certainly appeals to the educated class of Pakistani women, but a country where most of the women, they live in the rural part and they are not educated, how would you appeal to those women, and how would you simplify your question and make sure that they know what is the meaning of women empowerment for Pakistani women, because a lot of women, they do not even know their basic rights. So how would you make sure that these women also know about the women empowerment, and also a society which is male dominated, without their help and support, obviously we cannot achieve what we want to achieve. So how can we get support from the the male-dominated society and all the politicians of different parties to come together, get on the same platform and make sure that they do something for the benefit of women of Pakistan.
Right. The rural women of Pakistan, they are a major contributor in the agricultural force. Unfortunately, we have very discriminatory laws in Pakistan. Women in Pakistan, the rural women, do not have the right to own land. They do not have the right to maintain their own land in certain cases where they have agricultural land. You know, Pakistan being a very patriarchal society, it's very male dominant. And I understand that the challenges are really huge in this respect. Even where women have access to owning land, it is somehow taken over by the male family members, and they're in charge of it, and they look after it. Although women are the ones who are tending the fields, they're working out. I think what is really needed is that we need to have big big-time land reforms in Pakistan. We have to enable women to have property rights, to own that land, to till that land, to work on it, and then, to avail of the fruits that come from that land. So it's not easy. You're absolutely right. It is not easy. Then again, once I think why I say poverty alleviation, if we take the example of Bangladesh, and if we take the example of Grameen Bank and BAC, these are world-renowned institutions. They have brought about a revolution in Bangladesh only by empowering women through these small petty loans. My daughter, she graduated from the University of Virginia this year in anthropology and economics, and she went to Grameen Bank and interned with Dr. Yunus there for 3 months. She actually saw it herself, and I just felt so proud when I heard, we read it, but when you hear from somebody firsthand and they've seen it, the women in the villages of Bangladesh are those women who now own the factories, they own their homes, and they are employing their sons and husbands in those factories. So, it just shows that if you equip the women with the support that they need, with the tools, with the education, with a little bit of training, and give them that little bit of push that they need, they will make it happen. And another thing which is very important, I must say this because I do believe in this. No offense to any of the males who are sitting here, the men, but whenever a woman is empowered, believe me, she shares that with her children, with the family. If you give women money, they're going to buy clothes for their children. They'll think of sending their kids to school. Not all men do that. Men have other distractions in life. But women, the mother is thinking about her child. She's thinking how best she can help shape the future of her child. So we have all these things that we need to do. That's why I said we need to have a rigorous campaign, lots of lobbying for women's rights, to speak about them at different forums, at all tiers of governance. It should be spoken about. And particularly Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, of which I'm a member, we have a very good local bodies empowerment program where we feel that empowerment of the people has to come from the bottom up. So you empower those at the grassroots level, at the village levels. They are the ones who will take care of their communities, and we want to bring that awareness in women. And I, as a political activist, when I'm out in the field in Pakistan and I go to different villages and in the rural areas, I always tell the women that they should come forward in their communities to do something, to contest the local body's election. Be there, make a difference, be a real voice in your community. But it'll need time.
What response do you get when you go on these campaigns and you talk to women in the rural areas? How do they respond, those ladies?
Okay, well, television has changed a lot of things in the world, especially in Pakistan. So whereas, our rural areas, there's not so much literacy and they don't have access to, technologies like the internet or newspapers and things like that. So, but they all have television, they all have the cable, and, they see images. So in a way, it's just, what media has done in Pakistan is just fantastic, because it's brought everyone like it was happening in your neighborhood. So you actually see, like they say, seeing is believing. So you see a lot of the misery, you see the problems, you see the discussions, you hear them, and it registers better with you. And believe me that the women in the rural areas of Pakistan also are quite aware, but just from watching television, and they find it very nice, they love it. That, there are women like us who don't have their heads covered, but we're talking about women's rights, and we want them to go to school, and they may have their heads covered, nothing against that, that's perfectly fine. Everyone's entitled to be the way they are, but it's like they receive us like, we are women. And like I said, anywhere in the world, I think globally, women relate to their issues because they're common issues, common problems that women face all over the world.
Thank you very much. Natasha Sheikh, who is the Global Art and Cultural Foundation, is that correct? Would you like just to say a few words for us?
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, firstly, good evening to everybody. Mayor of Hammersmith, Dr. Sohail Chugtai, Mrs. Fawzia Kasuri, and the rest of the councillors. And ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Natasha, as was just said. I've heard the discussion, which is so brilliant, and in my project as well. We do a lot of recognizing and promoting women who are empowered and empowering women. What has been discussed is fine. We are absolutely aware there's a lot of empowered women like yourself back in Pakistan. There's a lot of empowered women here as well. However, what I see different in Pakistan or Pakistani women, I can walk around as I am right now on my own without my husband, who is actually with me today. But I would be fine. I'm still empowered enough to be bold enough to walk out, do what I have to do. I'm an activist with the local political party. And I'm able to do all that. But back from Pakistan, when we have all these empowered women, and they're so good and they're so brilliant and like you, so vocal and so knowledgeable, we still need the support of men. Somehow or the other, we need that male figure with us. We need our husband or our partner or our father or a brother with us to walk with us. Stand maybe behind, which is good because you're the empowered person there, but we need that. In all this, the immense thing is, I think that's wonderful that we accept it as our culture. There is no denying the fact that that is a support which is well needed in a culture like Pakistan. So we're not trying to get rid of that culture. It's brilliant. You have the support. If family is supporting, or a member or a cousin or whoever is supporting, that's brilliant. But this is an opportunity that you have as a minority. This opportunity is not available to so many other women as a majority. And those women, mind you, are very empowered within the four walls of their houses. They manage the budget, they manage the children, they decide which school goes to. As we were discussing earlier, women do everything. They're so empowered back in Pakistan, especially in the rural areas. They decide each and everything, except for like Raman Bhai said, buying a car. That's when the man puts his foot down and says, no, I'm going to decide that.
Same here.
Yeah. The thing is, with those women, being empowered at home is brilliant. Yes, that is really important. But to bring them out and have them empowered outside, I believe the men need to be empowered in themselves and to be tolerant enough and to be exposed to the fact and to know and understand and support their wives or, you know, whoever it is, the woman in their house, to be able to not be threatened that there's a woman in my house who is so empowered, she's bold enough to go out there, take a step, do something in her life. Now, my question would be, how would you, and you being an advisor, and I read advisor to Imran Khan on women's issues, how would you go about educating these men, particularly? And it's not just to the rural areas, it is all over. And it's here as well. It's not that it doesn't exist here, but it doesn't, not in such a huge amount, but back in Pakistan, it is very much in your face, it's in everybody's daily life. How would you, or what policy would you bring in place to actually educate these people, the men, to not feel threatened by a woman who's strong enough to, and vocal enough and empowered enough to actually go out, make a difference and make your own country better?
Okay, so that's the question. Here's the mic for the answer. How would you educate men? That's the one.
Okay, so the way I look at it, Natasha, you know, you made a very valid point, and I said that earlier as well. You know, there's a particular mindset, and especially in countries where we're from. So we have to bring a change in that. And it's not easy because, you know, it's embedded in the minds of the men. They are the people who take charge. They're the people who are the, you know, the head of the family, and it's not easy. But how we crack through that, I personally feel, is through strong institutions. We need to have institutions in Pakistan we need to have laws that are implemented in Pakistan. We have a lot of good laws on paper, but they're never implemented. We never see anyone who is punished or, deprived of something useful to them because they broke a law. We don't see, crimes are committed all the time, and it's the rule of the mighty, and it's all people who have a lot of clout and political influence. They get away with murder. So this is not right. It has to change. And I'll give you a very brief example. By the way, aap Rashid Rahman sahab hai? Okay, all right, I wasn't sure. Okay, so I'll give you a very brief example that there was a senator from Balochistan, and there was an incident that happened in Balochistan about 6-7 years ago that 4 or 5 women were burnt alive, right, in fire. And the senator who did that, who was responsible for that, when the female senators in the Senate spoke about it, and we all did too. I mean, we were not in the Senate, but we spoke about it and raised a hue and cry in the media. I mean, what an atrocity, what a horrendous crime it was, and that this senator should be taken to task. So Asif Ali Zardari, who was the president at the time, he actually appointed him in the cabinet in return for that. So, I mean, you see, what a gross violation, what an insult to the intelligence of people like us, or anybody for that matter. But how do you fight that system? How do you fight this anomaly? It can only be done if we have institutions to fall back upon. In the civilized Western world, they have institutions. It doesn't matter. A person's not that important. It is the institution that matters. It is the system. It is the justice system. It is the way things are done in civilized societies. So we need to work on those in Pakistan. And gradually, with the passage of time, it will be a slow process, but it will happen. But we have to try our best and just keep working at it. That's the best I can say.
Right, thank you very much for that. Any more questions? Do we have I can't read his writing here. Mrs. Bashant Rafiq? Yes.
She's the president of the All Pakistan Women Association of UK, and she should take that seat.
Thank you so much. This is very, 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 I'm honored. Yes. I was just listening to this. It's a very good question of what do you do, how do you make men start to take account of the women that are a part of their lives. Yesterday we had Asma Jahangir talk at a gathering, and she insisted that more women should be invited. And I also wrote to a lot of women from my organization to come, and there must have been a ratio of about 5% women and 95% men. I request all of you here, and especially the gentlemen, that when you go to any such sessions, please bring your wives and your daughters with you. Please. It's not that there are no women, but you all leave them behind. The other thing Fawzia just mentioned, that it's a long process to educate people. One of the greatest things I have learned in this country is how, when people were drinking and driving and people were being killed on the streets, the British government started a program on television which says about drinking and driving. The other thing about seat belts, click every trip. And by the time these things came up on television, we were unconsciously, wherever we went, we just felt for the belt to put it on. There were so many people who would not drink if they went out, and they changed their idea. And this, I think, is something that you have to do about women in Pakistani culture, that they have to be brought out. I mean, amazing women, amazing daughters, amazing wives. If you get half the nation to stand up, Pakistan will be way ahead of itself. 52% women. And they are holding that country up on their shoulders without ever being acknowledged. And I think that has to be done, and governments can only do it. Organizations, NGOs can't do it. And you are in government, and you are going to do it. You will be, you will be. No, but it's not. I mean, thank you. Thank you.
Thank Thank you. Any more questions on the floor?
Hi. Drawing upon what Natasha, this is for Mrs. Kasuri, drawing upon what sort of Natasha asked you in your response, you mentioned that I think one of the channels or mediums through which you can bring that change is strengthening and establishing institutions. One of the biggest institutions in Pakistan, I feel, is religion. Do you think if Pakistan was a secular society, women would be more empowered?
It's a very sensitive and tricky question you've asked me to put me on the spot. But my personal opinion, I think religion is a very personal thing between a person and their God. And personally speaking, again, and I'm not speaking for my party, I respect human beings who can help others, who can assist others, who will go out of their way to reach out for those who are not as privileged as they are. I really don't care who they are praying to, who their God is, because I have always maintained and felt that Allah is Rabbul Alameen, which means that He is the Allah of the entire universe. He's not just the God of Muslims. So I don't know what else to say. I think that religion is very important. It plays a very significant role in the lives of each and every human being, but then it is something personal to us. And I think that politics and religion can coexist together, but they don't necessarily have to be intermingled, or we can't say that there can be no politics without religion or vice versa. So I think they can be kept separately, and the citizens of any country, regardless of what faith they practice, if they are citizens of a country, they should have equal rights. And it is the case in Pakistan, by the way. All citizens of Pakistan, according to the Constitution of Pakistan, have the same rights. No, but that's not true. Darling, that's not true, that women don't get equal rights. Women in Islam, women get the maximum amount of rights. And there are property rights, there are rights to inheritance, there's rights to divorces, to marriage, to everything. But unfortunately, for political reasons and for the vested self-interest agendas of some politicians and people who are in the, in the corridors of power, they don't want them enforced. The women of Pakistan have a lot of rights from Islam and from the Constitution of Pakistan. So it's not to say that Sharia doesn't give them rights. I'm not an expert on Sharia law, to be very honest, but I mean, I have an idea about the powerful women, the women who come from affluent families, the educated women. They can own land, they own properties, no one bothers them. It's because they are influential people. But the rural women, when I speak of the vast majority of women in our country, they don't have access to those rights, and they're not, because there's no implementation. There's no retribution for violation of their rights. And these are basic fundamental human rights.
So, okay, and the lady on my left who's been waiting patiently, so you're on.
Sorry, I'm just going to add something quickly to this. I'm sorry. I understand what you said, women will have equal inheritance. But there's a reason for that, because when a woman inherits, she inherits a certain percentage from her parent, but that is less than the brothers would inherit, because she is yet to inherit a percentage from her husband, which the sons will not be inheriting from the wives. Okay, that is a separate thing. But this was the logic given behind it, for a woman to be inheriting. And in Islam, a woman should be getting married, so should a man. It is something which is suggested we should do. So it has been justified in that way.
I am Razia, and I'm from Women and Girls Empowerment Sport. It's a domestic violence charity, and I'm solicitor and I am human rights activist as well. It's very good issue our brother he picked up, Islam and empowering women. I think women were empowered when Islam came. The wife of Holy Prophet, Hazrat Khatija, after Islam, was the best businesswoman. Hazrat Aisha, who was the last wife of Holy Prophet, he was giving lectures to all men, and the men are coming from so far areas. And if you see the example of Hajj, women and men, they go together for Hajj. Islam doesn't say women can't go with men. And another example, if you see Islam and Pakistan, actually, the mullahs in Pakistan, sorry to say, they have given us wrong picture of Islam. If you go and see Saudi Arabia, the women at the time of marriage, they demand, okay, this property should go my name, then I will marry you. Islam given a lot of rights to women, but the perception of Islam is not correct in Islam. The reason, there is cultural issues from subcontinent. We are more closer to India, to Hinduism. This is the grassroots issue. We have to tackle culture and Islam. The perception of Islam is given wrong by the media or by the mullahs. Thank you very much.
Gentleman in the blue shirt over there.
I have a question for Fawzia Kasuri. Thank you very much. You've now got a government in the province of KPK. At a very recent by-election, certain women in your province were not allowed to vote. They did not come out to vote. Why was the government completely silent over the issue in your own province where you have government now? And could you also please tell us how many women do you have in your cabinet in the province itself? And is it not true that most of the seats in parliament, whether they're at the provincial level or at the national level, where women representation matters, are not elected representatives? They are nominated by the parties on the which of course is constitutionally allowed because there are certain reserved seats for women. And aren't there more showpieces as opposed to women who've come from the social sector or from sectors where they're actually serving communities?
Just before you answer that, Fawzia, can you just introduce yourself, who you are and which organisation you're from?
Okay, my name is Sheikh Rahman. I'm president of Petra Global Energy Group.
Thank you very much. Over to you.
Okay, so in answer to your first question, because you asked three, the first one was? Yes, okay. Yes, recently there was a by-election in KPK, as in other parts of the country, and there were 2-3 constituencies where women were barred from going to the polling stations to cast their vote. Now, I agree, we have a government there, but this was not government instituted, this whole process, but there was huge condemnation by Imran Khan. I was here at the time. I also on Twitter and Facebook and through the media condemned that action. Imran Khan demanded that there should be a re-election in those constituencies. And I know that in Islamabad, when I have been part of the various seminars that I've had and discussions with UN Women, I was part of the team. We were advocating that at least there should be a minimum of 10 to 15% representation and women vote in any constituency across Pakistan. Because if that is absent, then that particular election should be declared null and void. So we have spoken about it. It's not like we've been quiet on that. Imran Khan has spoken, I've spoken, and various other voices in the country have been raised. And yes, it was not right and it should not have happened. And since then, I think the Supreme Court already has ordered re-election in those constituencies. So that's a positive development. Your second question was about how many women in the KPK cabinet? Okay. Yes, you have a very good question. We have a coalition there with two other political parties. And I agree with you that there should have been more representation of women in the cabinet. But we do have 1 or 2 advisors, and they are very senior women, from one is an educationist, the other is healthcare, a renowned doctor. She's been for many years and a professor. But I am not saying that we are perfect in KPK. We are also part of the same society. We are also evolving. We're talking about it. At least we are providing a platform where a debate is being initiated from. So we also have a lot to learn. I'm not saying I'm empowered. I'm fighting for my right also, as I'm fighting for thousands of other women who are members of our party.
I did not wish to bring that up.
Sorry?
I did not wish to bring up the fact that you yourself were a victim of this.
No, but I agree. Yes, I have been. But I have no inhibition in saying that yes. But it was not just about me. It was about thousands of other women in our party who have worked, who needed to be represented, who needed to be acknowledged, their work, their contribution. And now your most important question about women in the parliament. We have a lot of women in the parliament. We have nearly like 17% or over 17% actually. I just found out from Andrea that she's saying that we have 23% women in the parliament. So that's good. There's some that have come, maybe this is the reserve quota, but there's some who have come directly through a direct election. Okay, so my point is, and this is something that our party also advocates, and Imran Khan spoke about it several months ago. I feel that all the women who go on reserved quotas into the Senate and the National Assemblies of Pakistan, there needs to be some sort of an electoral criteria. They need to represent constituencies. They need to be representative of some people. At the present moment, the way the system is working, these parliamentary seats are just like gifts to women. I mean, they could have come from anywhere. They don't. But I feel that women who are working at the grassroots level, women who have a commitment, have experience, who are working in their communities with people, they are the ones who need to then go as their representatives into the assemblies so they can raise their voices for their problems. Not women from affluent families and women who have political clout and who have the backing of men. It should be women who should be there on their own steam because of their accomplishments and because of their services to other women in other parts of the country. So I'm a great advocate of that. I'm going to lobby for that. Imran Khan already spoke about that. And we want that women should go. And we are not against the reserve quota because, mind you, that is only to facilitate the entry of women into parliaments. It's needed. It's necessary. It will be a process. It will take time, maybe a couple of decades, where women are emotionally, financially, from the education point of view, able and capable on their own to make a difference. But today they need to be facilitated and brought forward.
Thank you very much.
And that is what the quota does.
Thank you very much for that. We've only got time for 3 more questions, I'm afraid, because time is against us. So we'll have to move on to someone who hasn't asked a question.
Would you be able to promise that you would strive to do that and achieve that during your parliamentary term, at least in the KPK province?
Asking a politician to make promises.
I will answer this very quickly, but I think it would be nice if some questions could be addressed to Lady Mayor as well.
Exactly.
I know that this is a predominantly audience that is interested in Pakistan. I can promise that we'll try. What we can achieve, I cannot guarantee, neither can I promise. But I promise as an individual, and because I work with lots of women and youth, and I'm very passionate about what I do, that I'm going to give it my best. I'm going to raise my voice. You support me.
Okay, gentleman over there, can you introduce yourself, please, before you say?
Yeah, my name is Harris. I'm currently an economics and finance student. What I've noticed about Pakistan is every time I visited is that the family system is very strong there. It's a very family-oriented structure. So where would you set the limit between women being empowered and over-empowered, where I feel that would compromise like the family system in Pakistan? I'd appreciate if you can answer. Thank you very much.
Good question. Right now we're not even focusing on over-empowerment. Right now we haven't even gotten to the basic first step. It's a long process. But we have to take that first step. And it's very crucial, it's very critical. There are serious issues in Pakistan, and especially women. See, there's a great amount of violence against women. And, we have to fight that. There are all these old, traditional, hated laws that, take away from the self-esteem of women, that leave women lonely, desolate, alone, and financially they're so dependent on the males. So we have to improve a lot of things. So over-empowerment will come much later. I don't think there's any woman in Pakistan, even if I may take the liberty of making this comment, Benazir Bhutto was the Prime Minister of Pakistan, but she was not over-empowered. Most people have the impression that things really went wrong after her marriage. So there are issues, there are lots of issues, but women have to make an effort, and we have to keep talking about it, and maybe collectively, someday we will see some improvement.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Durdana.
My name is Durdana, and I'm the Chief Executive of Pearl Education Foundation. Our slogan is margins to mainstream, and we started with just 100 Muslim women in this country to educate them just by basic English language. Now we've gone up to like 8,000 students in the last 6 years. My point is that, fine, yes, we started with just a group of Muslim women, but at the same time, I think we needed to integrate them. In order to integrate them into the main society, you have to get other people, other communities as well. And that's what we have done, is that we've got, yesterday I was in one of my centers, and we had in one classroom, we had 18 nationalities sitting there, which is an amazing thing that a Muslim, thank you, a Muslim woman wearing a burqa, and a Muslim, her husband, a Jewish sitting across this board. And then you've got some young European students coming, recently arrival. These are the things that we need to find. We don't understand. I don't come from a political background. Neither I would like to. When it comes to talk about working for the masses, working for the real people, my question is, if I would like to take our project, I've been asked several times to take our project, to extend it there. We're taking it to Sri Lanka, we're taking it to Bangladesh. I would love to take it to Pakistan. Pakistan is my motherland. Britain is my homeland. We've been living here for so many years. But my heart is obviously there. I like to go and help people out there. What about the class system? How do you tackle with that? What about the security? You don't want to have another Malala there. I'm not talking about, there are so many lovely, beautiful girls. I've seen them in mountains, in Kashmir, whenever I travel there. You see some beautiful girls, little girls, 6 years, 7 years old girl. They are walking up 6 miles up into the mountain. Where are you going? I'm going up to school. So it doesn't mean that girls are not going to school in Pakistan. So please don't think that nothing nice is happening in Pakistan. I know for the fact, because I have spent a lot of time during my BBC period in Pakistan, in very rural areas. So how do we do that? How do we, if we like to take our project to rural areas, or even in the main city area, how do we combat that situation, the security situation? Thank you.
Absolutely, there is a great security situation in Pakistan. I agree with you there. But I also want to tell you, Durdana, that first of all, what you're doing is fantastic. Hats off to you. It's really very inspiring. Brave young Malala. It was an isolated incident. It's not that it's happening all the time in Pakistan. But of course, in the media, it came across as like, oh gosh, one young girl raising her voice for education and she gets shot. She's a lovely young lady. I went to meet her, and thank God she's alive, and hopefully she'll do a lot of good things in her lifetime. But there are thousands of Malalas in Pakistan. There are thousands of brave women, who are going up to Gilgit and Baltistan and into such difficult terrain, setting up schools, schools, healthcare clinics, volunteer services, trying to empower other women. These are very positive things that are happening in Pakistan. Unfortunately, they don't make it into the media, especially the Western media. They don't get here. You know how they say bad news always travels very fast. Good news gets lost on the way. That is what happens. So please, I encourage you to bring your success formula to Pakistan.
Thank you. I think that's something that the media has in common on East and West, and they like negative news, don't they? Relevant, in fact. Okay, can we have a last but one question from the gentleman there, please?
Great, thank you. My name is Councillor Afzal Akram, and I am the husband of this empowered woman on my left, Natasha Sheikh. And now and again, she makes the mistake to let me speak as well, and this is one of those mistakes. No, as a councillor, cabinet member and former deputy leader of my own council, we are the second largest Pakistani community which resides there. So I get invited to a lot of events on women empowerment, some actually arranged by women themselves and some by mosques and other places as well. And one of the things I see is I'm either addressing or participating in an event, a debate, which is either primarily full of women or primarily full of men. And we're talking about women empowerment. For me, that formula doesn't work. Because if you're addressing and talking to a couple of hundred women, yes, they may be sold on what you've said, but they then need to go home and sell that to their husband, brother, father, etc., etc. And vice versa with the men. I'm sorry to say, it's a case of I better not go home and say this to my wife in case she becomes empowered as well. And I have a laugh and joke with some friends on that. I think we need to practice what we preach. My wife and I, for example, around the London scene virtually are tied together and we go together. I mean, it's got to so stage that if one of us turns up and the other doesn't, it's a case that the other person must be ill. And we're asked, why is so-and-so not there? And coming back to Pakistan, it's about culture. And I think we have some very positive aspects of culture in Pakistan. I was born here in the UK, okay? Yet my parents have invested the Pakistani culture in me, and I like to think I have the best of the East and the West, and it's what I do with that now. A lot of the time, and education is key to this, and I talk and I debate on, and I talk about educating our young people for the future. But I think for women empowerment, and I think, Fawzia, you touched on this before yourself, I think for women empowerment, we need to actually educate the husband and wife together. It's got to be done as a team. And what I would like to see in future, whether, and I'm talking to everybody here, whether here in the UK or in Pakistan, where we have events, we have debates, and the panel is actually made up of Mr. and Mrs. Kasuri. Sorry, I don't know if you're married or not, but Mr. and Mrs. Kasuri, Mr. and Mrs. Dr. Chugtai, Madam Mayor with her husband. Because what I'd like to see is, how does it work in a relationship? I can talk about us. I can talk about us. And I know my wife's very empowered. We work together, but I also know as a husband, she respects me 150%. She talks about me, speaks to me. That gives me more impetus to actually empower her even more, and vice versa. So that trust, that respect has to be mutual and has to be two-way for it to work. And I don't think you can get that from each other. I think you can probably get that from shared stories from people on how it works for them, and more importantly, maybe where it hasn't worked so you can make changes. So it's a plea for the future. Let's do some more debates around that, where we get couples together and we actually do some in-depth work. Because if you get the parents and get them empowered, they will in turn teach their children.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the lady at the back there, did you want to ask a question? No, you don't want to ask a question. So last question.
Amina's hard of hearing. She's my daughter. And when I think about working in Pakistan, I have sent my own daughter to stay there with hearing problem. Going into for 3 years, she stayed there alone. So that is an example that how much we love to work and help. And I would, I think it'd be really nice if Amina can express some words.
Hi, my name is Amina Isai. I'm an artist. I paint every day. So basically, when I was born, I could not be able to read, write, and talk. I just survived now. And when I went to Lahore, it was a culture shock for me. It times up, how can I explain, humanity, special needs, communication. I don't know where to start, but in this country we have everything in life. For example, we have museums, we have galleries, we have safety rules, look at left and right, we have everything in order, black and white, from A, B, C, D to death. In Pakistan we have none of that. But in small minority level, I feel that I had a lot to catch up. For example, the women, the boys are very hungry for the knowledge and education, more than average in the country. They are aware of the education, the knowledge in the museum, more than the people in the country. So I was 10 years behind, and I had to grow up very fast in Lahore. I had to have myself for the people to help me. And I think I had transformed, I had changed a lot in Lahore, and I didn't want to come back. I'm glad I came back on a professional level to work in the system, but I will never forget my root and my spiritual and humanity level of transforming on the education level there. Thank you.
Thank you. I must say, Amina Ansari, she is a brilliant artist, wonderful. So look her up, she's got some great paintings. Dr. Shoa? Mr. Okay, I'm bigging you up there. Please ask a question.
My name is Muhammad Shoaib Sheikh, and I'm the General Secretary of Pakistani Professional Forum. Our membership consists of people from higher professions. Our chairman was due to represent the forum, but he had something came up which he couldn't miss, so I have been asked. I am here in his place. I must congratulate, first of all, Dr. Chugtai and the Hammersmith Council for organizing such an important seminar. Thank you, Mrs. Kasuri, Fawzia Kasuri, for your great contributions. Although I'm not a PTI member, but I believe in admiring, commending what is good, no matter who does it, who says it, and criticizing what is not good, no matter who says or does it. I think the problem of empowerment of women depends on the economic independence, and economic independence depends on education. But this is something that depends on other, and that makes it difficult, this cycle, to break. I'd like to say here that the Prophet of Islam, 1400 years ago, gave women rights, and the empowerment comes with rights. And I'll quote what he said 1400 years ago. O people, it is true that you have certain rights with regard to your women, but they also have right over you. If they abide to your right, then to them belongs the right to be fed and clothed in kindness. Do treat your women well and be kind to them, for they are your partners and committed helpers. Remember, this was said in 1400 years ago, when it was customary to bury females. And this is what Islam did for empowerment of women 1400 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. A quick question to our Lady Mayor. Can I go back to Councillor Satira Anjum?
Thank you very much. I'm very much aware of the time. I want to ask you that, I mean, we are not free from problems here. We are also fighting for more political representation in Parliament and Council, and issues like equal pay and equal opportunities. What message would you like to give to women of Pakistan through Fawzia when she goes back? What she should be saying about the women of West?
I think first to send them my very best wishes, and to say that we're all listening, the world is watching you, and we're hoping that a really peaceful and productive solution will be found. I think, as the old saying was, Rome wasn't built in a night. All these things take a certain amount of time, a lot of persistence and a lot of tolerance, and perhaps a lot of suffering, but in the end it does come right. And so I wish you all the best in that respect. And as regards how to go about it, I think you're probably the best people to know, because you're the people on the ground. I can only look from the outside and say how we do it here. And it's different, because you have different cultural habits, and I'm listening to them now. And I think what you've just said about Mohammed's fairness to women is something that should be perhaps brought to the attention of more people. It would perhaps smooth the path a little towards them getting a fairer deal. But a lot of you are rising anyway. I mean, goodness me, we've got people in this room who are all doing extremely well. And the young councillor, I think, is a star, the one from Buckinghamshire, isn't she? Yeah. The youngest. Is she gone now?
Yes, she had to go.
Yes.
Busy politician. Thank you. Our very, very, very last question goes to Lord Shafkat Khan. Is that right?
I don't have any questions.
Oh.
What I just probably would like to comment is that, do you think that sometime it is the women themselves who are also part of the problem, particularly those who are in the hierarchy, who are the beneficiaries? You mentioned some of those ladies who are benefiting either because they get tickets to the parliament, either they benefit from it. That is not taking away any problem from the men's side as well, but that in particularly whether it's Margaret Thatcher or whether it's Benazir Bhutto, that sometime they themselves become part of the very problem that you mentioned.
Is that a question you're saying? Yes. Oh, well, perhaps you'd like to
You
answer.
go ahead. I've spoken a lot.
I think you're more qualified to answer.
You see, now this is why women should run the world, right? Because they're diplomatic.
I kind of understand where you're coming from, and you know, some of the times this is true. There are, but you know, I mean, there's these kind of self-interests always prevalent in any society, and that is why I say that rights are something that we have to fight for. No one's going to give it to us on a platter. We won't get it. It will always be the rule of the mighty. They're the ones who are going to enforce their will. They'll bulldoze through it if need be. So this is where our role comes in. You know, good, educated, caring people all over the world, regardless of where they belong to or what part of the world they live in. But this is where we have a role, and I personally think that each one of us should try to give it our best, and we should speak for those who, you know, the lower segments of society, people who need help, people who are weak, who are voiceless. We need to become their voice. What else can I say?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to give the closing remarks over to our lovely Mayor. Thank you very much, panel.
Well, I'm going to add a little word to what Fawzia was saying, because there's a power that you women have that you perhaps got it so long and had it so long you don't realize you've got it. They say the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. Now it's up to you to train your little boys the way that you think the world should be, so that it becomes their will when they grow up. And that's a very powerful thing that we've had since time began. At any rate, what I'd now like to do is to say I've been very interested in hearing all that you have to say. I think we've all learnt something, and I think pretty well everybody's managed to say something one way or another. I'd like to thank our hosts very much, and Chuptai for doing, as usual, brilliant arrangement of everything, and even overcoming the appalling traffic jam of 3 hours. He's pulled the event off in the end. And thank you to his staff too, the IT boys and all the rest, and to you, of course, been a marvellous organiser. So thank you for coming. Wish you all the very best, and we'll look forward to seeing the programme. Thank you.
I'd just like to close this program on the note of thank you, and also want to say one thing, that in certain societies, women empowerment is pulling up, but in some societies it's only a handshake. And that is the definition, the difference of definition of women empowerment in Eastern and Western culture. Let's not define it by one definition, but accept that it can differ from West to East. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.